Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Ranty Flat Earth, Chocolate Sane, The One, who else we got? 10th Man, who else have I got? Sleeping Warrior, and Righteous Force. Hello, one and all.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Did I miss anybody? Did I miss any of you?
Yeah, you missed me.
No, I said you first. I said Ranty first.
I know. I'm just winding you up.
Fair enough.
Is Ranty on Discord?
Yeah, we've also got a whole bunch of people on Discord. Hello, everyone on Discord.
Good.
No, somebody
I'm
hello.
phoning in on Skype.
Somebody did say hello.
Oh, right. So special treatment for Ranty then.
Well, it's the only way I can get on the show because I can't.
Yes, thank you so much for calling while I'm doing the intro, because that's just what I need while I'm on camera. Thank you, Ranty.
You're most welcome. Sorry, I didn't see you actually.
To be fair, I'd only just started, so you might not have realised. Hey, Paul.
I'll accept the apology. Thanks.
Hello.
Hello. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from California.
Righteous Force, why are you presenting a game?
Oh, I'm waiting for 10th Man. He wants to share something. I got it ready.
Alwyn.
Hello.
Any signs of axial rotation?
No.
Not of the Earth-based variety.
Right on the one. No axis. Any scientific evidence of... Go on, Ranty.
Sorry, that's just the ladders making a noise. I'll go on mute.
Okay. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
What's gravity?
Well, gravity's not a force, but it is also a force.
Do you know, I don't know if you watched Ranty's last night, but I was chatting with Toady, and basically Toady's in the same camp as Sean Little G. Sean Little G basically accepts and acknowledges that he doesn't really understand Einsteinian, and therefore he just dismisses it on that basis, which, you know, is honest. I appreciate the honesty, but it doesn't detract from the point that you can't pick and choose, that you can't say, oh, I don't accept Einstein because I don't understand it. The fact that you don't understand it means that you need to get up to speed with the current science, because anyone arguing Newtonian principles clearly is arguing up to about 1914, 1915, because it's been replaced since then. And it's funny because I was asking Nathan before offline, it might not have been Nathan, it might have been somebody else, is it possible that this is all like changing around right before our very eyes? Because it seems to be everywhere at the minute. Everywhere in pop science, they're talking about how gravity is not a force, literally telling you under your nose gravity is not a force. And I'm like, are they reacting, or is it total coincidental that this little corner of the internet is just so happened to coincide with a lot of mainstream articles to do with gravity that are all saying it's not a force and that it's been Einstein and superseded and all this? It's literally everywhere. Yet people like Tim, people like Toady, people like Al K, they all want it to be a force, so they believe it's a force. And I'm all right with you believing that it's a force, but don't go around telling everybody it's a force, because your current science is not a force. Even if you believe it, at least tell people the current position, that it's Einstein, it's not a force, and it can't cause anything. It's just a little bit of bendy light. That's it. I'm done.
Well, I think that our debates concerning gravity and what it really is kind of just sparked the interest of a lot of people that do actually deal with physics, and it's just never really been paid too much attention from the foundations of it. Everybody's always focusing on this revolutionary graviton particle or whatever, but nobody really looks at the foundation, and maybe they just kind of caught on. So that's why it's now being forwarded in more mainstream circles, as it were, because it just naturally happened. Nobody paid attention to it before that.
I was actually in Discord the other day. I don't know if Chocolate was in there and heard this discussion, but I think it was Danny and Zanuck and all them were going after it. But they were saying it was interesting that they were saying that Newtonian is things are in the inertial reference frame, but in Einsteinian they're in the non-inertial reference frame. So you got to see the contradiction in that two statements.
Well, yeah.
So they're confusing now the two different geometries of this gravity with reference frames.
Bloody hell, Chocolate! You sound like you're right beyond the curve that much that you must be antipode to it. You sound miles away.
Did somebody put you in the stocks again?
He's got the mic that he can't rumpus with today.
As to Anthony's point, when the ballers come on the show and they have to defend what gravity is in the trenches, they have to have it Newtonian. And yet the pop culture, as you refer to it, I remember the movie Interstellar. You recall the scene when they're traveling in the false medium of space and the guy bends the paper to show what the bending of space-time is. You all recall that scene?
No, that's a wormhole.
Okay, exactly.
It's a description of the wormhole they went through to the other side of the galaxy.
Thank you.
It's not gravity, it's a wormhole. That's it.
No, fine. That's the detailed answer, and you're right. But the whole point is the masses don't fight in the trenches to realize how you can't use the bending of time-space for anything, let alone a wormhole. But they're getting everyone conditioned to think it's that.
I honestly didn't get what Paul said.
They are changing everything in real time. There's so much evidence that they change things in real time. I mean, just look at how YouTube was in 2015 versus now. Like, it's everywhere. Every time I Google something, it's different.
Yeah, it is.
Well, everybody knows Google has altered their algorithm, broken it basically. The perfect search algorithm that would find exactly what you wanted, it's been broken officially by them.
When we started this debate, was the moon in Earth's atmosphere? Because it is now.
Yeah.
Right?
Technically, yes, because that information was late 90s. They just didn't let it surface till now. But technically, yes. Just wasn't being argued in the trenches. But that doesn't answer your question in the most specific of way. Technically, yes, the Tor values were changed in... Was it 97 they changed them? I'm sure it was the late 90s.
It was always like this.
Well, no, it was changed in the late 90s.
It was always like this. They just didn't realize it yet.
The claim isn't in particular that the moon is in Earth's atmosphere. They say that it's in the geocorona, which is part of the external part of Earth's atmosphere. So technically, yeah, that's still Earth's atmosphere.
A lovely story. But yes, like Arwin says, we're still at war. No, my bad. We're no longer at war with Oceania. Get it right.
Yep.
So there's a gravitational bridging between Earth and Moon. Why doesn't the atmosphere split like 70 to 30% around the Moon?
Didn't we just cover this? Maybe I've had a time lapse because of the dilation problem. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Can't even define it.
Scientific evidence of what?
Hopefully that covers that then, the one. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
I don't have any evidence to the distance to the sun, but I may have evidence as to what the moon could be. Are those two related or no?
Yeah, man, I'll have that in the same kit and caboodle, right? Light in the sky that we must worship. Go ahead.
Excellent. So I shared a video on the Discord. I don't know if you can see it, but it's by a fellow flat earther that goes by the name of Jibby Jedi. And basically what he did in this video is he's inside a car and he's pointing a light at his windscreen and he's using his finger to occult that light. And it's projecting a reflection on that windscreen that explains the waxing and waning crescent of the moon. You can play that video. You're not going to get a copy strike if you want.
Can somebody dig it out from Discord who's in Google?
I'm not in front of my computer today, so it can't be me.
I'm looking for it.
Thank you, the one. Okay, so that covers potentially what the moon could be, but cover the housekeeping. Is there any actual distance to the sun measured? Anybody?
No.
How about a distance to the moon?
Or distance to the moon? I'll take that too. That's what I thought it was. That's why I'm asking it again.
I heard they measured it using, I think it was lasers or sound waves bouncing off
posted
the
it in
moon.
Master B.
Yeah, with the moon, you can measure it using lasers, and you can measure it using radar. The distance.
Cool. Can you show us that?
Could you give a live demonstration?
Show us that.
RC.
Can we see that?
Yeah, it was me. So yeah, there are two papers published. One in the 1950s, which was one of the foundational ones of trying to use radar to map the distance to the moon, which they were successful. And there's even a do-it-yourself guide for measuring the.
You said trying.
Did my mic not work? Can we see that? Can we see that being done? Can we see it being measured?
The distance to the moon.
No, I think it's a paper where it's just said that it
Hasn't shown us yet.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Sorry, Nathan.
Can you show it? Why am I being rumpus? What's going on? Show us that measurement being done, please. Cowbell time. This isn't like an unusual state of affairs here. You don't just get to say, yeah, it has.
Yeah, I got a paper.
I'm sorry.
Where they actually measured
there was
the
a bit of
distance
background.
from
There
the
was a bit of
closet in
background.
Hold on,
Narnia.
Hold on, Arwin. Sorry,
Just
go on,
don't ask me
RC.
to present it.
Hold on, Arwin. Go on, RC.
There was a bit of background noise, and I couldn't understand your follow-up question, Nathan.
There's no follow-up question. We just want the cowbell for your claim.
Yeah, here, I'll post it in the chat.
Okay, and what exactly are you posting?
It's a lab from Knowles, Shapiro, Craig, and Bauer in 1959 and 1960. A series of radar measurements for the distance of the moon were given.
So, radar measurements from somewhere that I couldn't hear because you mumbled. We might speak rubbish.
For the distance to the moon.
Yes, we know what the claim is. I just need a bit more than a muttering description of what it is.
Yeah, the claim is that the distance to the moon can be measured with radar.
Yeah, I know. No shit. Oh my god, this is like pulling teeth.
Am I screen sharing?
No, but you can be.
Well, at least we cleared up what the claim was.
No offense, the one I appreciate you going and getting Jibby Jedi's video. We'll come back to that shortly, if though, because we've segued away from it temporarily. But if you can keep it presented for now, we just want to get RC Meister's claim squared away. So he's saying that they're measuring the distance to the moon with radar.
Yeah, and it turned out to be about 402,000.
And do you want to give us a bit more detail about what they did, what the process was involved to get that measurement, please?
I posted it on the link if anybody, or on the live chat if anybody would like to go there and reference it. But basically, they used residuals derived from radar to calculate the mean distance over a series of about a year. There were about 8 different sendings of the radar and measurements of return to be able to measure the distance.
You haven't posted anything.
So they were looking for ghosts on tapes, basically.
Hold on.
You haven't posted anything.
You want to post it?
I did. I think I posted it under Randall. I think I have I'm talking on my phone, but then I have a Discord. It's under Randall.
All right, thank you.
Got it.
No problem. Here, I'll post it one more time. So it's up at the top of the live stream. In Discord specifically.
Said it was derived. What do you mean, derived?
Well, so you take the radar measurements, you use timings from those radar measurements from emission to return. And
timings.
You can calculate distance. Yeah, you can calculate distance by that timing like you use any other basic radar measurement system.
Is this my bit to speak?
Feel free.
So the timings for the ping data, yeah? Is that what we're talking about?
Uh-huh.
How do you know the timings where to look in the... So if the duration is, say, just for argument's sake, 5 minutes and 5 seconds, how do you know that it's 5 minutes and 5 seconds? That's where you need to look.
Yeah, and what you do is you corroborate that over about 450 radar. So
how do you know?
You make sure that you send out the radar echoes in a very specific pattern with very specific timing, so that you make sure that any type of interference that could possibly be sent back, that you can cut through that interference and look for the timings that you sent it.
So again, you've not answered my question. How do you know the duration for the ping reflection to come back?
Well, you wait with the ping back to find the emission timings that you sent them out with at the same frequencies that you would have sent them out with.
So you don't know the time period in the first instance. You correlate what you're looking for it. You don't know it in the first instance, right?
Well, that's why you have particular echoes at particular frequencies, and you use per burst 450 timed pings, and you're looking for echoes that come with in the same intervals with the same peaks that you send them out with, so that you can cut through any potential.
Can you just clarify? I'm not sure that I understand what your position is. Just clarify the position. Do you know how long it takes for the ping to come back to you, or are you searching for the frequency to find the distance, the time?
Yeah, that's the whole point of making the radar measurement, with the ping at the frequency and with the timings and with the number, the sheer number of 450 emissions that you actually.
What? Sorry, you go around in circles. You're saying with the correct timings. Where are you getting the timings from?
It's the signal intervals. It's basically how he wants to recognize the signal back. But I had a separate question to that,
Hold
and
on,
that is,
Owen,
what is
Owen,
the actual
Owen,
percentage
Owen,
of the signal return?
Owen.
So
where'd
can
you
you
get
just
the
answer
timings?
specific question? The duration for the ping reflection before you do the ping reflection, or do you find the ping reflection because you don't know it? Which is it? It can't be both. So just answer that question.
Well, that's what you're measuring. You don't know it, therefore that's why you're measuring what the time is that you get these pings back with the intervals that you sent them out with, at the frequency you sent them out with, and with the timings that you sent the spaces between the pings out with.
Okay.
You're looking.
Okay. So when they send the ping data out and they wait for the reflection and they get it back, and you're looking for the signature, the frequency that they come back with to be able to prove that the signal that you're receiving is the same signal that you sent out.
Yep.
You'd expect that information to be really easy to obtain, wouldn't you? Because it would be the defining pinnacle moment of a telescope or a radio telescope. It would be its pinnacle moment to prove that they were the first people, or that they have demonstrated the distance to Venus, for example. You would expect that information to be easily available, right?
Sure.
So Jodrell Bank in England is owned by the University of Manchester, and Jet Propulsion's laboratory paid for the funding for that Jodrell Bank radio telescope to be built in around about 1961. And when they built it, and the English scientists that did build it and then worked on it, trying to ping reflect the bounce to and from Venus, when they did the ping reflections, they couldn't find the ping reflection, the signal that they sent out. They couldn't find it. When they sent, they told JPL that paid for it. They told JPL that they couldn't find it, and a bloke called Bob from JPL in America said, "Send me your data, let me look at it." When they sent him the data to look at it, it was only when Bob from JPL sent the information back and said, "That's where the ping data is," and then they all looked at it, and then suddenly there was a consensus. It was only when Bob from JPL said that's where it was, then it became accepted that that's what it was. However, nobody could agree beforehand. Now, I'm not saying that JPL are biased, given that they paid for it and Bob's told them where the answer is. And I'm not saying that the Jodrell Bank staff are incompetent, but it seems unlikely that some bloke from America called Bob was able to demonstrate exactly where the ping data was, when all the scientists that built the equipment and used the equipment and believed that they knew where they were looking for this ping reflection. I'm suggesting that perhaps there might be a biased reason for why Bob from JPL that did pay for it might have a vested interest to tell them, "Oh yeah, there is a ping reflection there. Well done, you've just proved the distance to Venus." Yet the English people that built it and used it, none of them could agree on what they were looking at because there was too much background noise. So my question to you would be, have you looked into this yourself to work out whether or not this information, this proof of the ping reflection data even exists? And if not, why?
I mean, I would have to follow the same methodology that these people did. I don't have the...
No, what you could do is you could contract Jodrell Bank in Macclesfield in England and ask them to provide the proof that they actually did get a successful ping reflection from Venus when they said that they did it, and demonstrate that it was the ping data that they claim it was. And when you look into this, you will find that they could not agree on what they were looking at. The scientists did not agree. It was only when Bob JPL...
You're using a completely separate example than what I posted. I mean, I'm not familiar with the study that you're talking about. I'd love to know more if you'd like to post a link. But the point is that, like, I'm posting specifically not the distance to Venus, the distance to the moon as determined by radar. I'm posting the methodology, the people who did it, and the equipment that they did it with. So I mean, I'm happy to go into the other one after I research it a little bit.
No, that's reasonable. What you're saying, you presented...
I posted his link in Master B if anybody wants.
But if Anthony wants to cast his eye over it, my question is still unanswered. You said the timings, and I want to know where you've got those timings, that they've presumably taken the data, and let's say for the sake of argument they can show, look, this matches, this frequency is the same upon return in 4 minutes or however long it took, 20 seconds, it makes no odds. I want to know how they've then taken that amount of time and calculated the distance from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
How
the
have they-
methodology for determining distance with radar.
And what is
And
that?
it's on page. If you'd like to see the actual graphs, it's on page 83 of the.
83 of the PDF. Can someone bring that
article.
up? Is there any chance someone can bring that up and pop it on screen? Have a little looky.
So it talks about the residual times is what they talk about it as. That you have a repetition period that we talked about with the 450 radar echoes. You can calculate the total round trip time based on, and there's a really great graph that shows you, like, here's what the methodology for looking at these radar echoes are. They use 1,500 meter range marks to be able to time out the pulses that are emitted. And so they use those 10 millisecond marks basically to ensure that at the same frequency they're looking every 10 milliseconds to see those 450 pings that went out, that they come back in those same frequencies so that you can cancel out any other potential interference that you might get. You can look at that signature.
What page number did you cite?
It was 83, and then 84 talks about how you can look at these range marks, particularly on the 35 millimeter film that they recorded them on.
Okay, so page 83. Are you guys seeing this?
Yeah.
Okay, the mean distance of the moon. It is sufficient to measure accurately the time of the leading edge of the echo with respect to the last transmitted pulse to obtain the radar distance, since the lunar distance is known well within one pulse repetition period.
Oh, what was that? Anthony?
It says it is sufficient to measure accurately the time of the leading edge of the echo with respect to the last transmitted pulse to obtain the radar distance, since the lunar distance is known to well within one pulse repetition period.
What do you mean the distance is already known within one repetition? That's what they're trying to measure.
Yeah, it's an affirming the consequence, isn't it?
This is begging the question fallacy, mate. They already know. They're not measuring it. They're basing it on already knowing the distance. Did you not read the first statement on that page, 83?
It is sufficient to measure accurately the time of the leading edge of the echo with
So,
respect to
yes,
the
I did. So would you actually like to address?
Seems to have gone quiet.
Oh, I'm saying, would you like to actually address the data?
Yeah, you're cutting off the end of each sentence.
Yeah, I said yes. Would you actually like to address the data within the study?
Data? Sorry, did you not hear what we just said? So you don't want to?
I heard what.
Sorry, scroll back down, Anthony. Back up, rather.
I heard what.
Shut up! You went silent, now I'm talking. You're seeming to talk over me, you little twat. They already know the distance. Oi! According to the first paragraph on this, it says, because it's already known. That's begging the question. The repetition period is based on the known distance. Why are you talking? I left a massive gap now, didn't I, Fundy? Didn't I? There was a long, protracted pause for you, the Fundy, with a begging the question fallacy, to address what we said. You don't want to. You've asked us to look at the data. No, the data is based on them already knowing. You want to address that?
Ooh. I'd like to actually address the data.
The data's based on them already knowing. Are you dumb? Are you stupid, sir?
You seem...
You seem to be stuttering. It's based on them already knowing. That's what the data is based on. You stupid moron.
It seems like every time you're presented with data, Nathan, you get very...
Data? Read the sentence again for him, Anthony, because this guy is fundamentally retarded.
It is sufficient to measure accurately the time of the leading edge of the echo with respect to the last transmitted pulse to obtain the radar distance, since the lunar distance is known to well within one pulse repetition period. Is that an absolute distance, or is that an arbitrary distance?
What it's saying here is that the lunar distance is not known.
Answer the question.
Excuse me. He's just said it's saying because the lunar distance is not known. No. Do you have a struggle with English? That is absolutely not what it says. You seem to be talking again while I correct your illiterate behaviour. No, that is not what it says. Hello!
Since the lunar distance is known with...
Yeah, well, you're telling me that I need to pay attention to data? The first paragraph says it's already known. And that's what they're basing the repetition cycle on. The fact that it's already well known.
Because you don't like the data.
Don't like the data? We haven't looked at the data, you stupid dick. We're not at the data where you want to take us. We're at the first paragraph where it confesses to begging the question.
Yeah, it seems that you don't like the data, Nathan.
Is that your rebuttal? You seem to not like the data. Is that your rebuttal?
I love how you're...
Now you're stuttering. Is that your rebuttal?
My rebuttal is that you haven't even looked at the data.
Oh, you just said a moment ago that I don't like the data. Now you're changing your rebuttal, sir. It seems you don't even know what your rebuttal is. So is your rebuttal that I don't like the data or that I haven't seen the data? You seem confused.
Trust me, I'm not confused.
Yeah, you are confused because the data's based on them already knowing the distance to the moon.
Let me ask him a question. The distance that's cited in the document that you're relying upon is said to be well within one pulse repetition period. Could you just clarify for me, is one pulse repetition period an arbitrary number or is it an absolute number?
If I may.
No, Owen, just let Anthony spank him a few more times. Let this protracted silence.
Owen, there's a pregnant pause for a reason.
I know. Yeah, you totally got them by the balls here, and they don't like that sentence.
Can we have an answer
for them?
Can we have an answer? Is it an arbitrary number or is it an absolute number?
Hey, Fundy.
Well,
Hey,
I also wonder if they had some kind of control variable.
RC, you haven't got a distance to the moon. Let's just summarise this because there's been too long a silence. No, this only demonstrates that you can assume the distance to the moon. It will be based on Kepler's third law. It will be based on presupposing Earth is a sphere and that Venus is the same size as that sphere. That's where you will get that value that they say is well known. We know this. You are an idiot.
Nathan, can I please?
Yeah, you can. Go ahead, Darwin. Sorry.
Right. So they could have actually sort of gone into the direction of making this scientific by introducing a null hypothesis by doing this exact same process as they did without changing anything, clearly not aiming at the moon. And I want to see the results from that comparing to the original results. Did they even do that?
Why?
Because, well, it might just yield exactly the same result. It may not be bouncing off the moon at all. This is what I've been trying to insert into every time somebody brings up the distance to the moon. Like, was it even tried out clearly not pointing at the moon? What were the results then? You know?
Cares?
I never get an answer for that.
They're basing the value of the return signal on a presupposition. So who cares?
Well, if it would yield the exact same kind of data when not pointing at the moon, then it's totally ridiculous to claim that it's bouncing off the moon in the first place.
Correct, but how they interpret the data is the issue. How they interpret the data is to base it on a presupposition. Of course, it always is.
I know. I'm just saying, you know.
That's Aaron has a good point.
Yes, I it's my Legolas thing, you know.
Well,
I know I don't have the
no, in the
science
sense
level to
of
state
not. Well, no, in the sense of not really. Silence, Legolas.
Should we move on?
I know I don't have the science level to make this kind of statement, but I couldn't help it.
Have you found anything interesting, Anthony, or not?
Well, I'm looking at the date for this article, and obviously our friend here, he relies on this to prove a point, and it's around about the 1959. Well, it says the first systematic radar measurements of the distance of the moon were made at U.S. Naval Research Laboratory in 1957, and it goes on to describe some of the bits and pieces to do with this. 1959 to 1960, the accuracy was increased by enhancing the sensitivity of the radar system. So let's just say it's around about 1959 to 1960. Now, what I do have here is a document for Jodrell Bank with regards to measuring the distance to Venus. And I've searched for the word Bob, because the thing I remember about this was some bloke called Bob in JPL in America was the one that verified the distance, verified the reflection, right? And this is seen in 1958. So we're in the same kind of period, 1958, 1959. And what this guy called Bob, this is beautiful, because what I'm going to ask is, when I asked him, are these relative numbers or distances, or are they absolute relative? Are they absolute distances? And I'm just going to read these 2 or 3 paragraphs. They're talking about the importance of getting Venus, because they needed it for the Apollo moon missions, right? They needed to confirm the distance to Venus. Sorry, they needed to confirm the distance to the moon. And they were going to use Venus to prove the distance to the moon, because obviously apparently it's important for rockets working out payloads and fuel loads in space and stuff. Anyway, I'll read it. It says, Kingston's maser was installed at Milestone Hill just in time for the inferior conjunction of Venus. However, a klystron failure left only about 265 kilowatts of transmitter power available for the experiment. On 10 and 12 February 58, the radar was pointed to detect Venus, then some 45 million kilometers away. The radar signals took about 5 minutes to travel the round-trip distance. In contrast, John DeWitt's signals went to the moon and back to Fort Monmouth in only about 2.5 seconds. Of the 5 runs made, only 4 of the digital recordings had few enough tape blemishes that they could easily be edited and run through the computer. 2 of the 4 runs, one from each day, showed no evidence of any radar returns. The others had 1 peak each. Price recalled, Price is an English scientist, when we saw the peaks, we felt very blessed. It was not absolutely clear, however, that the 2 peaks were, it was not absolutely clear, however, that the 2 peaks really were echoes, right? So they found what they look like. So they're expecting to see something, and then they've got 2 peaks that they think, oh, look, that must be it. But they're not convinced because it wasn't clear, right? Green explained, we looked into our soul about whether we dared go public with this news, because let's not jump before we can walk, right? Because they might have had this wrong. Bob, this is a guy in America who's funded it from JPL, was the only guy who really stayed with it to the end. Now, this is the important bit. Bob had convinced himself that he had seen it, the ping reflection, and he had convinced me that he had seen it. Now, how persuasive is that evidence when Bob is really convinced that he's seen it and he's now persuaded me that he's seen it? Is that persuasive evidence that there was a ping reflection where they believe there was a ping reflection if they believe that the moon's distance is based on 2.5 and they've calculated based on Venus being the same size as Earth and that it's therefore spherical in shape of the same size and therefore a set distance away? If they've calculated all that based on Eratosthenes' circumference of the Earth and the assumed sphericity of the Earth and whatever, they must be looking at around about 5 minutes for the run to get there and back. Well, what if them assumptions that they calculated their maths on were wrong, and they're looking in completely the wrong time distance for this phenomena that we see in the night sky called Venus? What if the timings are completely wrong because it isn't the same size as Earth, or it isn't as far away as they thought it is, or it's much closer and it's much bigger, or much smaller, or whichever, because you can vary the distances and the further the size of them based on the infinitely variable, because you don't know any of the distances. It can be very, very small and close, or very, very big but much further away. They don't know how far away these things are. They've just got a ratio, but no actual distances. How persuasive is it when Bob was the only guy who stayed with it to the end? He had convinced himself that he'd seen the ping reflection from Venus, and he'd convinced me that he'd seen it. Now, and then he says, yeah, I think you should publish this. But one of these guys had a real reason for seeing the ping reflection, because he wanted to do a PhD on the ping reflection. So he's obviously going to be pro finding one anyway. But Bob was the only one that stayed to the end. He convinced himself that he'd seen it, and that he'd convinced me that he'd seen it. I'm going to say that that's not persuasive. I'd like my friend to support or tell me his views on how persuasive all this relative distances is, because we do get a measured ping of some time duration, but that's why I asked, is it an actual absolute, or is it a relative arbitrary number? Because we want to know the distances involved. And Bob from JPL reckons that he was convinced that he'd seen these ping reflections at the time limit, but I say nobody else agreed with him, and they could have got the time distances wrong because they don't know how far away these things are, and that's why there wasn't a uniform, unanimous decision. It was, they weren't really sure whether it was absolutely clear or not, because they might not have been the echoes from the ping. It might have been a bee flying past or something like that, something that that you think was causing it, but actually wasn't it at all, and you just got it wrong. It's not. I would say it's not particularly persuasive.
Is that Bob the Science guy?
It could have been Bob the fancy guy. It could have been in his younger days.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if it was him, actually, to be honest. It would be about the right age for him to be in his prime, in his 20s.
Yeah, and it all makes sense.
Yeah.
So, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Only a hole of about 8 miles.
Nope. Yeah. And then there's a bigger problem that you have multiple Coriolis effects on steroids. Impossible.
We're not having another conversation about Coriolis, are we? Please.
No.
Yeah, we are. I have something to present.
No.
Oh no. I'm going to go sleep. Why can't we just say Coriolis doesn't apply to the Earth unless you can prove it's spinning? And that everybody understands that.
Yeah.
I don't think they can hear you, Brenda.
That's not a bad thing.
Brenda.
Can you hear me?
I hear you, but I don't know if they're here.
Yeah, they can hear Brenda.
But she's very quiet. Is this, well, I have, audio time. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yes, you are. Yes.
What's Bully Boy Nathan up to today? Why are you screaming?
Because somebody told us that they'd measured the distance to the moon, and then in the open paragraph of the cowbell that he presented, it explained that the durations that they're using are based on them knowing the distance to the moon already.
Yeah, what's...
So moving on. Any evidence that you can have gas...
What's wrong with it?
Sorry? That's the thing you're trying to prove. Saying that you base the durations on knowing the distances is begging the question fallacy. That's the thing you're trying to prove.
They're not trying to prove that the moon is a solid object a distance away. They're not trying to prove.
No, they're proving the distance. They're supposedly proving the
distance.
They're
not.
Presupposing it.
No, they're not,
yes.
moron.
Yes, they
are.
are.
We know they're not. Yeah, we know. That's why we shouted at him, because they're not. And that's what he said they were doing. So yes, Brenda, they're not doing that. You're right. They're not measuring the distance to the moon. Thank you for backing us. That's why we shouted at him. Glad we cleared that up.
No, they're not trying to determine if the moon is a hologram or not. They're not.
Nobody gives a fuck about this red herring. Shut your mouth.
It's a red herring on you.
Yeah. Nobody discussed holograms. Shut your mouth. This is called a red herring fallacy. Now shut up.
Bully boy, if you yell...
Yeah, fuck off. This is a red herring. Now I'm telling you to shut up with your red herring. For a reason. Not because I'm bullying you, because you presented a red herring. I shouted at the other guy because he also presented a logical fallacy. Begging the question. Now you're presenting one. A red herring fallacy. Now fuck off.
It's not a...
Shut up, you stupid stuttering twat.
It's not a red herring, bully.
Yeah, it fucking is, you stupid twat.
No, it's not.
Sorry, at no stage did anybody discuss the idea of them detailing whether or not it was a hologram, you stupid, fundy, red herring using idiot.
Well, you're the people...
Whoa! I hear the quiver in your voice, right? If you've come here to be shouted at because you're a masochist, then you'll be obliged if you behave like a stupid idiot and use fallacy. Is that what you've come here for? Just a masochist? You enjoy me shouting at you?
No, I'm here just to laugh at the bully boy. Triggered.
Yeah, that's what you're here. You're here to be shouted at when you're proven wrong. Yeah. I've had enough of you. Go away and explore your masochistic tendencies elsewhere, you pathetic human being.
Just
stop stuttering, stop interrupting, and piss off.
Get lost, Brenda.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Yeah. Nope.
No possible way.
Once
there's lots of
the gas goes out, just like now from Brenda's mouth.
Brenda, are you there?
Every thunderstorm is evidence of a low pressure system next to a high pressure system without a container.
Where'd you get the gas? Where'd you get the gas in the first place? Where'd you get the gas to have that system? Where did it come from in the first instance?
It's evidence of a low pressure system.
Yeah, don't just repeat your claim. Try and listen to the rebuttal, you unbelievable retard, rather than repeating your fucking claim through my rebuttal. Try and listen. I'll say it again. No, I ask her to try and listen. I say I'll start again, and she starts talking. Try to listen. That means don't talk, Fundy. Where did the gas pressure that you are creating that system with come from in the first instance? Over.
That's irrelevant, Mara.
No,
okay, I have something to add.
It's not irrelevant. It's the demolition of this point, because in the first instance, you would need a container to press upon to have the gas to begin with. So it's not irrelevant, it's the demolition of your argument.
You are literally begging the question, right?
Begging the question. Okay. Number one, detail what begging the question
by assuming
detail what begging the question is. What's begging the question?
Right. You're begging the question.
Detail what? She's just going to fucking say it 15 times in a row rather than listen to any rebuttal whatsoever. Number one, what is a begging... It's your last chance, Fundy fuckwit. I'm going to kick you out, Brenda. What
I have something to add.
Is a begging the question fallacy? Then explain how I've employed that fallacy, please.
Because you claimed that in order to have a pressure system, you must have a...
That's correct. I would like to now quote a gentleman who goes by the name of Conspiracy Cats. Quote, "Without the container, there can be no pressure." End quote. Conspiracy Cats 2019. He teaches children. That, ladies and gentlemen, would be a stone cold silence. Go ahead, Ranty.
Taste those tears.
Hello?
Hello. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, so my question is this, about this storm fronts being next to each other. So you have a high front next to a low front. Yeah? Hello,
Yeah.
Brenda?
Yeah. Don't look for the affirmation, otherwise we'll never hear the end of it.
Okay, so you do. And obviously one is drawing from the other. That's why you have a lower pressure next to a higher pressure, because they are already starting to transfer. You know, it's already started to transfer. That's why you have it.
Draw. No, that's not how high pressure and low pressure system.
You just said low pressure next to a high pressure when you have a system, a thunderstorm or whatever. Or
yeah,
a
you have a thunderstorm. You have a thunderstorm.
So what's the pressure inside the hurricane then?
Next to high pressure.
Yeah, what's the pressure inside the hurricane? Is it high or is it low?
Every thunderstorm system is a low pressure system. They're next to high pressure systems.
So why is it higher next to it then? You're literally visualizing entropy right there.
You don't know what the word entropy means.
You're literally seeing it firsthand.
What about it?
That's how you have high pressure next to low pressure. In that respect.
Yeah.
The dynamic.
What are you talking about? The Earth is thermodynamically open. It's not closed.
Yeah. Well,
Really?
if it's open, how do we have the gas pressure in the first place to have the high pressure?
Also, what's the volume of the space above us? What's the volume? Could you give that to us, Brenda?
Yeah, this is irrelevant. The question,
Can
the
you
housekeeping
prove how
question
we have
is
the atmosphere in the first place?
This
the
is
housekeeping
irrelevant.
question is.
Don't start panicking now, Brenda. Come on, you can do this.
I'm not panicking. I'm not panicking.
Well, every time
The
you say
housekeeping
it's irrelevant
question,
when we're asking you a relevant question, it just seems like you're panicking. You have nothing. You have no
I'm
argument.
not. The housekeeping.
Yeah.
You're just
Well,
over
why haven't you
me, that's
responded
why.
yet?
So the
Should
housekeeping.
be simple, right?
I am responding. You have to allow me to talk, bully boy.
Okay. How do you have
So-
gas pressure without a container? Go.
Right? I gave you an example.
That's her answer. She's already given you an example with.
Yeah, I gave you the example. The example is.
Yeah, we heard the example, and then we rebutted it by asking, "How did you get the gas pressure in the first place?"
No, that's not. That's begging the.
That's irrelevant. Begging the question. Yeah, we're back to this stage. It seems we're back on track. So, Conspiracy Cats, 2019. Quote: "Without the container, there can be no pressure." End quote. Conspiracy Cats, 2019. He's a teacher, certified, all degreed up. On your side of the argument, no less.
Who cares?
Who cares? You're saying I'm begging the question, and my rebuttal is to say no. That would be an antecedent consequent relationship. And then, again, I'll quote Conspiracy Cats. Quote, "Without the container, there can be no pressure." So you talking about pressure systems has a rebuttal. Where'd you get the pressure in the first place? Because, quote, "Without the container, there can be no pressure," end quote. Conspiracy Cats 2019. That is the rebuttal. I'd like to hear you tell me again how it's irrelevant, or who cares. Let's hear your hand wave.
You're just quote. You're quote mining.
No, that was a full quote. That was actually a full quote.
Do you know what? No. Do you know what quote mining? Do you know what quote mining?
Yeah, I know what it is. It is taking a piece of text and then taking only slight fragments of it to put the whole thing out of context. That's what that is. This was a full quote, man. That's not quote mining.
Yeah, as an example, if you were to say have a full sentence that said something like, "Gravity kind of seems a bit like a force," and then a comma, and then it went on to say, "But it absolutely and under no circumstances is a force." And then you were to take the first section that says, "Oh, well, gravity kind of is a force," and then just put quotes around that. That would be quote mining. An example kind of like that can be found from someone called Rumpus, who did precisely that, quote mining. Me, on the other hand, I'm not quote mining. I am just quoting Conspiracy Cats 2019, quote, without the container, there can be no pressure. Now I'm asking, given that, quote, without the container, there can be no pressure, end quote, Conspiracy Cats 2019, where did you get the pressure in the first place? And you say that's irrelevant.
It's begging the question.
No, it's not begging the question. You're going around in circles, you fundy dumb fuck. No, antecedent. Not fallacious, antecedent.
Yes, yeah. Do you know what the word antecedent?
Yes, so does Conspiracy Cats. He understands that the antecedent for gas pressure is a container. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, because, quote, Conspiracy Cats 2019, without the container, there can be no pressure. Now, I'd like to know where the fuck you got the pressure from for those weather systems, dumb fuck.
It's irrelevant.
Not irrelevant. I would say it's actually the antithesis of irrelevant, and it's actually pertinent.
Brenda, are you having like an amnesia attack under this pressure or something? Because you seem to be forgetting the base meaning of words all of a sudden now that you've used before. So it seems like amnesia.
You know what pertinent means? Do you know what that means? Pertinent. Does that word mean anything?
You don't know what these
My
words
point is pertinent.
You think so? The housekeeping question is:
how can you have gas pressure without a container? And Conspiracy Cats has answered us, quote, without the container there can be no pressure. I'd like to do a few shout-outs. JQ, who says, they assumed R value for the moon in their calculator. I think he's referring to the dude earlier, the RC guy. Yeah, you're way ahead of us, JQ, absolutely. We just wanted him to get there, and I couldn't be asked to go into Discord and bring the reference up to read it myself. But thanks to Anthony, we got there in the end, and you're absolutely correct. Of course they assumed the Earth's sphere within their calculations where they beg the question. You're absolutely 100% correct. Thank you for the super chat. Also, shout out to Good Servant for your super chat, and Legoin, who super chatted and said shout out to Hyena. Okay, I think I understand what's going on there. Super looming Hyena then super chats, says lol, Brenda dumber than a second coat of paint. Okie dokie. Thank you for the super chat. Super looming. Brilliant. Really appreciate your support. Anything Brenda, anyone wants to add before we round out for the after show?
Brenda,
yeah, I've got a ladies' night tonight on the show. Tonight.
Say again.
Ladies' night.
I'll plug it at the end of the after show. Although, I mean, you're welcome to plug it to the live audience as well, as I'm about to round out. But you can plug it to the people who stay tuned on Nathan Oakley premiering stream, because that'll be timed to start when this finishes, if that makes sense.
Well, very quickly then, it's just going to be it's going to be a ladies' night. So instead of having all these male voices talking, we're going to have a bunch of females talking. So if you can put up with that, or you want to listen to that, tune in. Ranty Flat Earth, 11 p.m. tonight on the round table.
Brenda invited? And with that, I'll say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live, then this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!